What I believe AI is going to enable us to do is to problem solve for our clients in a much more effective fashion. From an audit, tax, and advisory firm perspective, it actually impacts all areas of our business. How we deliver our services, what services we deliver, how we charge our clients for it, and then who delivers the service, what skills and capabilities, and where the services are delivered.
Hello and welcome to the Care to Lead interview series. Today we have a special guest with us who's going to share her thoughts on how AI is impacting and disrupting the professional services industry. Nita Sanger is a seasoned professional with 25 years of experience in transforming financial, professional, and legal services businesses. And I welcome you, Nita. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Cynthia.
So tell us a little bit about what got you started in this industry. Tell us a little about your background.
So I have been doing consulting for the past 25 plus years. And what got me started on this was that I have actually been fortunate that I got to live in multiple countries, work in them, and then travel fairly extensively. And what I really enjoyed was just meeting people from different places and actually problem solving. What started me off in consulting was exactly my love of being able to problem solve for clients. And in some ways, that's what I see us doing, helping our clients be successful, figuring out what their problems are, and then helping, solve for them.
So what kind of problems do you like to solve?
I started out first doing more pure strategy work, which was helping them figure out what their strategy should be to grow their business or to expand in a new area. And then as I kept on doing that, I started focusing more on operations, which is making the operations more efficient. And then as things were moving on and things started changing and, the industry started changing during the credit crisis, I actually started helping on more how do businesses transform themselves. So something that happens in a market that drives a business that needs to look at it differently. And so that's how I had started off with the whole credit crisis, where all the financial institutions were trying to figure out what they needed to do. And that's when I started focusing on, what do you need to do to transform a business so that they can continue to be successful? And since then, I've been fortunate to have done that for a big four firms, audit and advisory services. Got to do that with a legal information services provider for the legal and regulatory division. Got to do that for a mid-market audit, tax, and advisory firm. And as new technologies are coming in, I'm starting to see more and more opportunities. Businesses are going to need to figure out what they need to do to continue to be successful in a market that's changing. So even as we saw during COVID, when the market actually, changed quite drastically, where you couldn't go outside, business models needed to change. So to me, there's usually triggers that drive people to say, we need to do something differently.
Okay, so now we have a big trigger that is telling businesses they have to do things differently, and that's AI. So tell me, first of all, what are your thoughts on how AI is disrupting the professional services industry, and how are you guiding businesses to navigate it?
Great question. This almost brings us back to what is the role that we see ourselves doing as audit, tax, and consultants. And like I said, the work that we do is basically to be the problem solver for our clients. We be their trusted advisors and help them figure out the issues that they're dealing with and help them solve for that. What I believe AI is going to enable us to do is to be able to problem solve for our clients in a much more effective fashion. So what this would actually do is it would from an audit, tax, and advisory firm perspective, it actually impacts all areas of our business. How we deliver our services, what services we deliver, how we charge our clients for it, and then who delivers the service, what skills and capabilities, and where the services are delivered. So when I talk about that, let's start off and I'll talk about each of those areas. So the first one is how we deliver our services. And that audit and tax are services that everybody needs to have. We've been doing that for many years, but they're very manual intensive. What's happening now is that AI has provided us the opportunity to actually automate huge parts of the business. There's enough studies that have been done which say, hey, 95% plus of audit and tax could get automated because there's a lot of tasks that are done in that which are repetitive, which means then that means the actual work that you do as an auditor or a tax accountant could get automated. But then you sort of shift to what the real value, what you can provide your clients, which is providing them insights on what that information is telling you and what they can do to run their business more efficiently.
So I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to touch on something that you just said because I think it's really important for our listeners to understand.
Mhm.
When you talked about AI, you talked about automating repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important for them to understand because you are still using your expertise and the business owner needs that expertise, but by automating the repetitive things, you're giving them more time with the expertise.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Absolutely. You just hit the nail on the head, which means instead of spending time doing all the ticking and tying, now the professionals can actually sort of say, okay, here's what we see. We did that for you. Now we can see what that information is telling us, which they can then provide those insights to their client. So they're using their expertise to be able to help their clients run their businesses more efficiently based on the information. That's a very, very valuable thing that AI is going to let us do. Then let's talk about the services that we could deliver. And I'm sure you must have heard of advisory services that we provide. And those are we go into our clients, they have a problem, we help solve them. But now with AI, we have, there's a lot of data that we sit on just in terms of how we work with our clients. Now we have the opportunity to take that data, be able to anonymize it, and then be able to provide that back to our clients and say, here's how are you doing vis-a-vis your competitors, providing them insights on what's going on in the industry, providing them insights on their own business. So that's where data analytics becomes incredibly important. So we're able to use that data to provide that information to them. Until now, our clients were trying to do everything. And remember, you have big firms and sort of smaller firms. A lot of times, the smaller firms get so caught up in having to do their month-end accounting to be able to sort of run their businesses now, and with all the complexity of technology and security, privacy. Now, what audit, tax, and advisory firms have the opportunity to do, as thanks to AI, is to be able to say, "Hey, you focus on revenue generation. We can help you run all those." You can outsource all those repetitive tasks to us, which are not essential to your revenue generating business. We could do them for you. We could handle your risk for you, security and privacy. We could, provide you with information like tech support, which you don't have to be spending money on. So that's the other thing that AI is going to enable us to do. So the services that we can deliver as a result of AI actually have got expanded. You still get our expertise, but we are now taking away all the mundane, boring tasks that don't help you with revenue generation and saying we can do those for you. And the data analytics provides insights.
So do you have an example of how you've used the AI in working with an organization and save them money specifically or had a big win for them?
Yes. So what we have done is, and a lot of the firms are starting to do that, where in my previous firm, what we did was we started to say, what are the managed services that our clients are going to need, which they don't need to do. So especially smaller firms don't have the funds to bring on a lot of senior level people. So we're saying we can provide you with fractional chief technology officers or chief risk officers, which you don't need to get, but we could provide the services for you. A lot of the firms are now starting to do is to say, we can do your outsource accounting. So at month end, you don't have to worry about it. We ingest your data. We will do your month end accounting for you. So your close, becomes much shorter. We will do that for you. So you don't need to hire somebody who's a non-revenue generating person. So this is something that more and more firms are trying to say, what are the things that our clients are going to need that we could now do for them? Then you could do things like we can help you, a technology help desk. You're going to have as you put on new sort of a CRM system or an ERP system, you might need some support. That's what a lot of audit, tax, and advisory firms are saying. We could provide that to you. So if you start thinking about that, it's like literally taking all the things with our clients, which is not essential to them for their revenue generating business. We are saying we can offer to you as a managed service or an outsourced service.
So I'm gonna interrupt again, just to play devil's advocate here, though, because AI is now accessible to everyone. Mm-hmm. Why does the organization have someone like you come in and implement all this AI strategy instead of them just doing it themselves and just bringing you in for the expertise pieces?
So if you think about what I'm just saying is, first is if we are doing work for them, we are their trusted advisor. You want to go to somebody who's trusted. And what we are saying is, we're not saying we're doing the technology implementation for you. We are saying we're taking away all the non-essential things that you should not be spending your time and energy on and doing that for you. So like I talk about doing the month-end accounting. Or if you've got technology that's being used within your firm, but you need a help desk, your people have questions that they need to ask about that. We could provide you with that technology help desk that instead of you having to do that yourself and bring in people who can answer phone calls and answer any questions your people might have, we can do that for you. So it's thinking about from that perspective. We're not implementing technology for them. What we would be able to help them is to say, okay, your business is here. Now your business, which is very much you go physically into a store, etc., might need to become more digital. We can help them with that digital strategy and say, here's what you need to think about. And then we can say, here are the technologies that we trust. You can bring them in, but we would be the one only providing the strategy part of it. So depending on what firm and what firm capabilities the audit, tax, and advisory firm brings, but think of it from that perspective, that we're able to help our clients become more successful by taking away a lot of the non-essential tasks what they should not be doing.
Excellent. So I'd like to pivot a little bit and talk about how your business has become successful. Is there a pivotal moment or a decision that significantly impacted your success?
In terms of, you mean a pivotal moment about when it came to technology?
Just in general with your business, how you've grown. Has there been any pivotal time? Like you talked before about, the credit crisis, and now there's AI. What's been the most pivotal thing that you think has helped your organization become the most successful?
So I think what we found is, I think with the coming of different technologies, and that's what has actually been what's been the driver of change. And you also, like you said, there has to be like a burning platform for change, which is, yes. So COVID was a huge burning platform for change, which changed a lot of the business models of how people needed to operate. That was a turning point. So it's literally, you have to see, like the credit crisis was certainly one. Now, when we had COVID, which again shifted how people were doing business, they had to move from being physical to being much more sort of digital and remote. That was another sort of trajectory. And usually now what I think is, at least for professional services, this whole thing around AI and generative AI is probably the next thing that's going to sort of change. And combine that for audit, tax, and advisory firms is this whole interest of PE firms looking to get into that space. So to me, those are the points that have kind of helped us in terms of what sort of takes us to the next level.
In your experience, what are the most common misconceptions about professional services that you'd like to debunk?
I would say that most people tend to understand what the value that professional services bring. But a lot of times what we tend to hear is that people are like, well, this is too expensive. It is not as value added for us. Because if you think about like audit by itself doesn't add value to the company that pays for it. They have to do it from a regulatory perspective. So a lot of time our clients saying, well, this is not adding value to me, but I need to do it from a regulatory perspective. And that's when they push back and say, I really don't want to pay you for this. That's when we as a firm have to think about what we can do to continue to add value. So remember I said when it's backward looking, now what AI is going to enable us to do is to be able to say, let's do those parts much more quickly, but provide you more insights to run your business so we can add value. So I think where the biggest misconception is people just think, oh, these guys are just charging me a lot of money or just throwing a whole bunch of bodies at it, which is where I think that's the thing that now we're able to solve, which is to be much more effective in what we're doing. Because even as you think about, where we charge by the hour and, you have, like if you're a partner, you charge so many dollars an hour, et cetera. Now, as we use AI to make us more effective on how we work, like we're able to automate parts of the business or be able to offer different services, there's going to be a shift that's going to take place. Remember, I said one of the things is like how we charge our clients. So instead of charging our clients by the hour, saying, I spend 100 hours on this and this is how much it translates into, now the opportunity becomes to sort of provide more value-based pricing. What value is my work bringing to you? And then charge you accordingly. So I think one of the biggest complaints that we see that our clients have is, well, you guys are too expensive. That's something that's going to go away because now we can charge value-based pricing on the value that we bring to our clients. So instead, something that took me 100 hours would take me 10 hours. I'm not going to charge you for 100 hours, but I'm going to charge you for the real value that I'm bringing to you. So I think that's always been the misconception, which now is actually going to get corrected as a result of AI, which I think is so valuable. So clients can see, okay, here's the value I'm getting for the money that I'm paying.
It's interesting that you say that. I have been using value-based pricing in my executive coaching practice for a couple of years now. And because it's the same thing, when you're talking to an executive and he knows that he and his executive team or she and her executive team need that coaching, but they don't see it as a real value add at first. But when I'm able to say, what would it be worth to you if this problem were solved, if your engagement were solved, if your retention were solved, like how much are you spending in disengaged employees each year? We can come up with real numbers. And if we could turn that around for you, what is that worth? It is so much easier to sell on that value because they get it and then we're able to deliver. So I think that's the key in value-based pricing.
And also what it does is, and I always say this to my clients, I said, I'm not here to sell you something, or I'm not here to sell you my services. I'm here to help you be successful. So it's changing that perspective to say, what is it that's happening in your world that I can see is changing? And here's how I can help you be successful. Here's the value that I bring, and here's what I would do. But if you shift that lens of yours to see what is it going to take to help you be successful in a world that's changing around you, then it's absolutely like you just said, people say, okay, I get it. Here's my problem that you're going to solve. And then what's that worth it? What's it worth to me to solve that problem?
One of the things I think is critically important in any kind of professional services industry is the ability to truly listen to a prospective client. So what are some tips that you have for other professional services people to what kind of questions do you ask and how do you dive deep and listen to get to the root of a problem? Because 90% of the time when someone comes to you with a problem, it's not really the problem, it's a symptom. So how do we dive deeper?
So thank you for saying that, because you're right. When people come to you, they will point out the symptom, right? They will say, something is not going right. So remember when I told you when I helped transform the global audit business of a Big Four firm, what the CEO of the business came to me and said was, my revenues are not growing and my margins are flat. All the other businesses within the firm are growing at double digits. And I need to do something to change my business. Otherwise, we're going to get sold. So that was the symptom of the problem. Then you have to try to get to the underlying issue to understand what is causing that symptom. And I think what came across was, and that's what we found out was that because the way the audit was being done, it really wasn't adding value to the clients because it was backward looking. They just had to pay for it. It was time consuming, but it was backward looking for the last year they would be doing the audit. So it wasn't giving value to them. The investors want more real-time information, so it wasn't adding value to them. But it needed to be done, just the regulators needed it. So that meant a shift of, okay, so what is it that our clients are going to need? So it's asking the questions to say, what is it that would be more valuable to you? And that's where we came to the thinking that it meant to be a more continuous audit where you could provide more insights to your client on how to run their business more efficiently. So the questions you need to do is to keep on sort of digging in when somebody tells you the symptom to say, okay, what is? So if your margins, which may be flat, or your revenue is not growing, may have been caused by what I just mentioned to you as a client need that had changed. Or there could be a market shift. So if you're saying that, during COVID time, when you were saying that, okay, my revenues are not growing and my margins are down, that the reason for that may have been because people are no longer going to your stores and they needed to move, and there might be a need for you to think about moving your business online. So there's almost an approach you need to take to understand what's happening in the external environment, and then examine the internal environment within the business, and then be able to say, okay, so this is going on externally. Here's how you're operating. What needs to be done? And those are some of those questions to dig in. And that's what somebody needs to find. And I always say it helps to maybe even bring in external subject matter experts who could throw insights into this, who may either understand the industry better, who understand technology better or innovation better, who help shape the thinking. So bringing in people who bring in different perspectives, even within a business. If you just talk to the client-facing person, he or she may have different issues. You may need to bring in the legal person who will say, here are some of the issues that I deal with, or the operations person. So it's bringing that cross-functional team that gives you almost like a 360 view of what the issue is. That becomes really valuable.
One of the things that we do with organizations when we start to work with them is we do a 2-day live on-site observation. And we're able to not just ask questions and have little focus groups and meetings with the executive members, we're actually able to watch them in action. So we watch them conducting meetings, we watch them interacting, and we can gain so much more insight by actually just being a fly on the wall for 2 full days. Curious if you do anything like that when you start with a new organization.
Yes. So we call it like a design thinking session. And then the design thinking session is usually meant to be where you bring in a lot of the people from within the firm with different perspectives. So the way we usually structure that is to help the firm sort of think outside the box. So when I've done these design thinking sessions, you create like how you want to do that. So first you might start off and, like an icebreaker. The next thing would be to maybe bring in an external subject matter expert who might say, here is where things are going. And we've done this in the past where we got in like a firm that would actually be talking about, all they did was think about innovation where all the industries were going. That's one. And then they got us thinking about how things need to be done differently. And then you run certain sessions, which then kind of get people to sort of think outside the box, which could be like an innovation cafe. So you almost like trying to take ideas and get people to build on that, but helping them think outside their comfort zone. Big firms do that. Everybody has different names. Big firms do that. Small firms do that. But the idea is to do that 1 or 2 day session where you start hearing all the different ideas that people are coming out with, which you then say, okay, then you take away and say, okay, so what exactly is this telling me? What are some of the issues? And then you kind of give it back to them. So it seems like you also do something similar, because that is the best way to learn about, what's going on and, what the issues are.
Yeah, we actually do our observation prior to even doing our 2-day retreat sessions, because we are really particular about customizing that 2 days. I'm hearing what you're saying. So your 2-day, your sessions are actually work sessions, which ours are too. And I think that's valuable. I think that's important. You have to have that preliminary information, because you can't go in with a cookie cutter program. And this is what we do for everybody. It's like, I need to know you. I need to see how your organization is running. And it sounds like you're doing something similar.
Yeah. So the actual day might be like 8 hours, or you do it over 2 days. But the work before that, there's like 50, 60 hours of work to understand the firm, understand their customers, of what they do, what they operate. So you're absolutely correct. And each one has to be customized. So there may be some similar aspects if you do that for different clients, but what you do during those sessions and what you glean from them is very, very customized.
How do you see the future of the professional services industry evolving, and what opportunities do you think it holds?
So I think we are at this very interesting time. I see the industry looking very different, and there's sort of a number of factors that are going to be driving that. So what I see in the future is that, say, the audit, tax, and advisory firm of the future, if I was to put sort of my hat on, would be that, audit and tax would get significantly automated. What's going to happen is then the audit and tax professionals would always become more consultative. What they would be doing is providing insights to their clients on the information that is there, and then be able to tell them what they need to do to run their business. On the advisory side, I see that all the entire sort of the services, the products and services that are going to be offered are going to be different. There's going to be more of a combination of more like managed services, which help, and outsourced services, which help generate recurring revenues. But there's still going to be the need of those professionals who are the ones who can go into the business and say, here's what we see, here's what you need to think about. That's what I see. The other thing that I would see is that because private equity is coming in, it's actually starting to change the entire industry. They're putting in a huge amount of funds because they see the opportunities that are there. As a result of that, I possibly see there's going to be a lot of integration, lots of acquisitions. So, right now we've got like some 30,000 audit, tax, and advisory firms. Many of them are very small. The top 200 might be big. I expect to see a lot of consolidation. So we'll have fewer firms, but being able to offer more of a breadth of services. So I see that sort of being the next thing that's going to happen. But I see the entire industry looking different. The skills that are going to be needed. There's going to be people going to need to have consulting skills, going to be able to the ability to think outside the box. But there's also going to be a need to have people who are constantly able to sort of, innovation will happen with all people need to be empowered to sort of innovate. That's what a thing like generative AI does. It's not going to be just only the tech experts who know how to create these products and solutions that are going to be able to do that. In some ways, it's democratizing how you transform your business. And I think that a lot of that is going to happen as well. So I think we're at this very, very interesting stage of the industry where I think it's going to get totally disrupted. And the ones who are going to be successful are those that are going to be able to paint what they think the future should look like for their farm, and then be actually tactically able to execute on it, and then bring all their people along on the journey to be able to help them get there.
Interesting. I like the reference to the private equity because I think that's another disruption, even in the coaching industry, because now a lot of organizations, PEs that are going to invest are like, we don't want to invest this money without being absolutely certain that the people end of this is being taken care of too. So they make part of their investment, like you will get coaching for your executives. I've seen that more and more, and I think it's really interesting. So Nita, in your opinion, which audit, tax, and advisory firms are best positioned to successfully leverage AI to transform their business?
So what I would say is that the ones who are most likely to do that, and if you study innovation, one of the things that you find is that innovation never starts from the top end. It probably starts more from the bottom end of the markets. If I was to take a guess, and this is just me saying it, I would say it's maybe, between the 10th to the 30th ranked firm who've got PE funding, who are probably the ones who actually have the most opportunity to transform their business, who've got leadership, which has got the right mindset. Because the one thing that becomes incredibly critical to be successful is leadership, who has the right thinking, is willing to push their team outside their comfort zone to be saying, okay, what should the business look like next? So when I was helping transform the audit business, the CEO was like, when I was just doing, okay, how do we automate this and do that? He's like, no, think more boldly. How do we disrupt our business before somebody else does it? So I think the key to success is a leader who does that, and then is going to be willing to provide the authority and responsibility and bring the right team together to do that. So I think the person who's able to do that, I can give you names, but I do not want to give any names and get myself into any trouble. But I think the firms which are between the 10th to the 30th ranked, who've got PE funding and have got leadership with the right mindset, are the ones that are going to be best positioned to transform the business. And in some ways, the firm that does it first and gets it done correctly is going to be the one that's going to have the huge advantage, and the others will just follow. That, I think, is where success is going to come from.
Very, very good point. For our listeners who want to learn more about you and your work, how can they connect with you?
They can connect with me through my, I'm obviously on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn is they can just look me up, Nita Sanger, or they can send me a message at nsanger@ideainnovate.com. And I'm happy to sort of, talk to them. And I've written thought leadership on this as well, and happy to share that with them as well.
And if there's one thought you want to leave our viewers with today, what would that be?
So I would say to the viewers is that we are in a very interesting time. The thing to remember is that you're going to see lots and lots of change, and change is going to be the only constant. We are actually still on the front end of the whole AI journey that's going to transform the business. We've seen some of the easier things being done, where the technologies like natural language processing or RPA, et cetera, have helped automate some of the sort of the mundane, repetitive tasks. The next the next thing we're going to see is where generative AI comes in, which is going to help actually all the knowledge businesses, because now it can actually create content similar to what consultants were going to be. And we're going to see the next sort of change that's going to come. To me, I think we are at such an exciting time. It's really going to be, and the one thing I would tell you is make sure that you sort of keep up with what's going on, and the change is going to be the new constant, and you have to be willing to change and evolve. But I think we're in a very exciting time.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Nita, for your insights. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in to the Care to Lead video series. If you found this episode valuable and you want to stay updated on our latest interviews and insights, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on your favorite podcast platform. We look forward to having you join our community of engaged listeners. Until next time, remember, leaders who care to lead.